You'll die! Die! Die!
Isn't this supposed to be a Nintendo game? Oh, you know, the guy that goes,
No!
and he does.
Wahoo!
Anyway, we're getting off track here. Let's talk about Fire Emblem.
Now, when I first played Fire Emblem Three Houses back on my Switch, I was very much intrigued by the game. I thoroughly enjoyed Professor Simulator at first, and with 3 separate branching paths to choose from, I figured there must be some serious replay value with the game, since all 3 students seem to have their own branching stories. Then there was the Persona-like system where you can perform specific activities with your students on your days off, with a big mission at the end of every month that progresses the story. It's a lot to take in, and the game certainly takes its time and slowly eases you into its systems. But for some reason, the first time I played, I just couldn't hack it. While some of Three Houses' systems could be entertaining, it can get pretty repetitive with not much change in the things you're doing day to day. The activities are nowhere near as engaging as Persona 5, and honestly, the two really aren't comparable in terms of depth. Where in Persona you could play baseball, take an eating challenge, bond with your friends, and more on an everyday basis, Fire Emblem only gives you 1 day off a week, and whatever activities you're doing within those allotted time periods are significantly less engaging. The online feature that tells you what most people did on certain days as well, while a cool feature, pressured me into feeling like I had to choose what everyone else did instead of doing things like seminars, something pretty much no one ever chose. But when you stop looking at this as the Persona title I tried to make it, and more as a mainline Fire Emblem entry, I think that's where things became more enjoyable for me. Just this past week, I decided I wanted to give the game another try. I booted up the game, slapped on classic mode, and began my adventure. Now, if it's one thing I've always loved about Fire Emblem, it's leveling up my characters and watching them mow down their enemies as they get stronger and stronger. Something about that gameplay flow is cathartic. Not only that, this time around, I focused less on the things you do outside of battle, and more on the battles themselves. If I wanted to go out and battle on a particular day instead of exploring, then that's what I did. Not only did it level my characters to be better prepared for missions, which is something I struggled with previously, but it also allowed me to build bonds between team members without having to do so within its Persona knockoff system. I feel like disabling the online mode this time around really helped me get on board more with the game's systems this time around as well, as I never felt pressured to any particular activity on any given day, because I didn't know what other people chose. So some days I would choose seminars if I wanted that one character to increase their sword skill, or I'd do battle, or I'd rest my characters for once to increase their motivation. I also paid more attention to the questing, which, believe it or not, unlocks a whole slew of things that you very much will need on your journey, like more Divine Pulse charges. Honestly, I don't know how I was getting through the game the first time on only 3 charges. What was I thinking? So questing felt useful as well, since I was getting stronger in more ways than just leveling my characters and stronger weaponry. Also, don't even get me started on Divine Pulse. I don't think I'll ever be able to play another Fire Emblem game without this mechanic. Playing on hard and classic, where if a character dies they're gone for good, there were times where I did a stupid move, I'll admit. It's inevitable with how long some of these maps can be, and when I lost a character to said stupid move or a dumb crit or reinforcements in the worst possible location, I was very glad to have the ability to rewind a couple turns and plan accordingly. Some may think that this ability was too OP and made the game too easy, but I beg to differ. If there was one word that I would use to describe what Divine Pulse did to Fire Emblem, it's that it makes the game more accessible, rather than easier. You can still get your shit kicked in even with Divine Pulse if you don't think about what you're doing, and send your characters all over the place. Divine Pulse just gives you the opportunity to rethink some of your actions if you do end up making a mistake, which is really an inevitability in a game with as much depth as this.
And when I say depth, I mean just look at this. I'm able to freaking move Byleth over here, then get Dorothea to dance to give me another turn. Then I use, Manuela to freaking warp me over there, and then travel all the way across the map in one turn just to be able to save one of my characters using Divine Pulse to just plan it all out. Oh my god, this was so cool when I did it, and I love the fact that you can strategize that much in a Fire Emblem game just by thinking out of the box. I'm able to move my Byleth from one end of the map to the other. And I just didn't realize the depth that this Fire Emblem brings. I really can't think of any other Fire Emblem where I was able to really make that kind of maneuver.
The support conversations are also better than ever in Three Houses. Some of them could be more entertaining than others, but there were certain skits between characters that weren't just conversations with one another, but instead gave more insight on the world of Three Houses and the politics behind it, or even more backstory on certain characters that you wouldn't have known about otherwise. Plus, some of the skits can just straight up be hilarious. Especially this one between Caspar and Hubert straight up had me dying laughing.
Yeah! I'm back! If you want me to shout, then I'm gonna shout!
That's when you know you're getting invested with the characters, and it's a sign that the developers made these people relatable, which is super important in a game as long as this. You're going to be spending at least 40 hours with the members of your house in a single playthrough, so you'd better enjoy your time with them. But the fact that you care about the characters is also a double-edged sword. See, there are 3 houses within Fire Emblem Three Houses. I mean, duh, right? It's kind of like choosing your starter Pokemon. You got red, blue, and yellow, which one you gonna choose? And each character has a completely different route you can take within the game, with significant differences between each one, at least in the latter half of the game. There are 4 routes in total, and to truly complete everything and squeeze out as much content as you can, you definitely will need to complete all of the routes. Yeah, this Fire Emblem entry is absolutely massive. But here's the real catch. Depending on which house you pick, the other 2 will become your enemies, eventually at some point in the game. Personally, I picked Edelgard during my first playthrough, so I grew really close with my ragtag team of Imperial students fighting against the ways of the Church. But now let's say I picked the blue Pokemon. Boom, now my whole crew that I grew really close with during the first route, I'm gonna have to kill them off one by one, and it's probably going to be really painful. And that's just how a war should be. Hell, even the characters know it. When I would attempt to move a student into battle, they'd say, "More fighting," in just this exhausted way, and it really got to me. Like, yeah, you're playing a game and these are just virtual characters, but I think they really did a great job with immersing me in the world this time around. Especially when I got to the final battle and my students that I worked so hard to keep alive were dying on me one by one as I fought to kill the boss before the enemy army surrounded me. Woo! I mean, I think that's something only a game like Fire Emblem could make me feel. And that was my experience with Fire Emblem Three Houses. This time around, I feel like I was really able to appreciate everything about it. I'm not sure why I got so burnt out on the game the first time around, but I'm glad I decided to pick it up once more and absolutely loved it. Now it's time to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Fire Emblem Three Houses? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Have you completed all 4 routes? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, because we got a big year coming up in 2022.